Hey guys, and welcome to my 1 to 99 and 120 Slayer guide for 2018. In this guide, I'll try to cover pretty much everything there is to know about Slayer, all the useful items, the quests, the skills, the Slayer masters, the tasks that you need to prefer or block, and even more. Before I get into anything of this guide, I should first explain why you should be training Slayer. If you're an Iron Man or normal account, it does not matter. Slayer is good experience for combat training. It depends on which task you're doing, but most of the time it's pretty good experience, and on your way to 99 Slayer, you'll probably get a few combat 99s. Slayer is also very good in terms of charms. You can obtain all the charms quite easily, and dependent on task, you will get a lot of charms, which is always nice, and everyone wants to train summoning up, except if you're maybe a skiller or something, but yeah, Slayer is very good charms. Now, the main reason main accounts do Slayer, or if you're training Slayer, is most likely to get money while getting combat experience. Now, Slayer is amazing money depending on what monsters you're killing. Again, very dependent on what task you have. But with Slayer, you get a higher Slayer level and you can unlock amazing monsters you can camp off task, like Abyssal Demons, maybe even Edimu, Arats, Dark Beast, all of those. You can unlock them with the Slayer level and you can just kill them off task if you wish to. So you can just camp them for GP. And Slayer is also a very good way of training Invention, as you get a lot of combat experience, and depending on the task, again, you can get a lot of Invention experience. I'll be covering a bit more of that in the Invention section later on in the video. There's a lot of stuff I have to cover in this guide, but first off, as the useful skills, the first useful skill is Prayer, because you can unlock curses with Prayer. Now, this is pretty much useful for any Slayer situation, and it does require the Temple at 10/10 quest to be complete. If you have 92 Prayer, and the quest complete, you can use Soul Split. Now, Soul Split pretty much heals you for damage that you do, and is very useful in most Slayer situations. Then at 95 Prayer, you can unlock the Prayer boosting prayers or curses, which are Turmoil, Anguish, and Torment, which basically boost your damage and accuracy. Also very useful for high tier Slayer. Now, another useful skill is definitely Herblore, as you can get super antifires, overloads, and extremes at a lower level. It's useful for some Slayer situations, depending on what you're killing, the super antifires I mean, and the overloads are pretty much useful for any Slayer situation, as they boost your combat stats, and your stats aren't drained if you're drinking Sourdough and Brews at a high tier Slayer monster. Now, the super antifires require 85 Herblore to make, and the overloads require 96 Herblore. If you do not know how to train Herblore, I do have a 99 guide on my channel, and even a 120 guide, and I'll link that in the description and card section of the video. Now, summoning definitely had to be on this list as well as Herblore, as it has so many uses for combat. It's pretty much useful for any Slayer situation, and on different tasks you're going to be using different familiars. So let's say on a Frost Dragon task, you want to be using a Pack-Yak, as you can bank the bones. For let's say a task you don't like, or you want to boost through for power slaying, you want to be using a Steel Titan. If you're just doing a chill task and maybe even want to AFK, the Bunyip or Unicorn Stallion can be very useful for AFK healing, and there's a lot of familiars, but I listed 3 on screen requiring 68, 96, and 99 summoning, and they're pretty much the basic familiars which you want to be using all the time during slaying. Now, like listed on the video, summoning offers a lot more familiars, and it's very subjective on what you want to be using, and it all depends on your summoning level. You can also use a Spirit Terror Bird or a War Tortoise for a BOB familiar instead of the Yak if you're lower level summoning. You can even use a Bull Ant if you're even lower level summoning, which holds, I believe, 6 items, but I don't think you'll require extra food at a lower level, because Slayer is kind of easy at the lower levels. Now, this wouldn't be a Slayer guide for 2018 if I didn't include Invention. Invention is definitely useful, and I want to briefly cover it for Slayer. So you have weapon and armor perks we can use for pretty much every situation, depending on what perks you're using and what task you're doing. You can gain Invention experience by doing this, and a few useful perks are on screen now, being Biting, Crackling, Scavenger, and Demon Slayer. And if you want to know every perk, or, I'm not going to put it in the video because it's just going to make the video like an hour long. I might make a separate perks guide later on, but yeah, I'll leave a link in the description to all the perks and what they do from the wiki. Moving on. Now, if you're going to be training Invention while doing Slayer, you level items to level 10 in around 1 to 2 hours depending on task, and then you can disassemble them. If you want to Siphon, it's going to take you to get to level 12, and it's going to take you 2 to 4 hours. This is good experience at higher levels, the Invention experience the weapon and armor experience, but at lower levels it's going to be pretty bad. So if you're like 80 plus Slayer, you want to start training Invention for Slayer, at lower levels it's not going to be much, it's not going to be worth augmenting your items and armor. Now, the Invention skill cape can be used, worn, and it can also be used in your Maxcape to reduce the charge drain rate by 2%, saving you a little bit of money in the long run, all the way up to 99 or even 120. I thought I'd just mention that. First off, with the useful items, the cannons. Now I must note they are expensive to use, and I don't recommend doing this at lower levels, but they are useful for power slaying, which we'll get into later in the video. They're useful for crowd control, for aggression to monsters towards you, and they help with power slaying and XP rates like said on screen. But the cannons do require some things. The Dwarf Multi-Cannon requires you to have completed the Dwarf Cannon quest, and the other two cannons require 70 invention and you have to create them first. Now the Dwarf Multi-Cannon is pretty much the easiest to get and the best to use if you want to attack monsters that are very widely spread out, like said before, because the range is better. I don't want to cover too much about the cannons, but yeah, if you know how to use them and you have them, use them, but they are expensive. Moving on. Now the aggression potions are probably the better option compared to the cannons, or you can use them together with the cannons in combination to have even more aggression from monsters. They're useful in many situations and especially good at abyssal demons, and they help with power slaying and experience rates like said before with the cannon. It's cheaper and you can buy them off the Grand Exchange, and if you're an Iron Man you have to make them yourself. Now a must-have item for Slayer is 100% the Charming Imp, costing 100,000 Dungeoneering tokens. This item, I mention it in pretty much every combat guide I have. It collects charms on drop, which is pretty much the main reason why you want to have it, and it can crush lower level charms or crappy charms that you do not want for experience, and the experience you get per charm crush is on screen now. Now the Charming Imp is definitely not the only useful item for Dungeoneering that you can use for Slayer. There's also the Bone Crusher, which costs 34,000 Dungeoneering tokens, which pretty much crushes bones on drop, like the Charming Imp. Then there's the Bone Necklaces, which you can use in conjunction with the Bone Crusher, or in combination with the Bone Crusher, And then there's 3 types. They cost different amounts of tokens, and they restore prayer whenever you bury or crush a bone, which is pretty useful. That's the Gem Bag, the upgraded version, which can hold gems, which is very useful for monsters that drop a lot of gems, like abyssal demons, and it costs 22,000 Dungeoneering tokens in total. There's the Gold Accumulators, which are amazing, but they do degrade except for the advanced version, which does cost 1.5 million Dungeoneering tokens. And there's the Herbicide, which crushes herbs, not noted ones by the way, at least I don't believe so, and it costs 34,000 Dungeoneering tokens, just like the Bone Crusher, and it can be used to clean up drops on the floor as well. Now the Spring Cleaner is an item I might make a full guide on later on, but it's very useful. Now you can configure it to crush rune items, which are the profitable ones, into ores for profit, and the battle staves into battle staves plus unpowered orbs for profit as well. You don't want to crush adamant items as of right now, as you'll make a loss with the spring cost. Now the Spring Cleaner can be won from Treasure Hunter, and it can be created with invention. The same goes for the springs that power the Spring Cleaner. Now another useful item is definitely Seedicide, as it can crush seeds for farming experience, much like the Bone Crusher and Charming Imp can crush charms and bones for experience, and it can get you a good amount of experience per hour at Turovs and Aquanites. This item can be obtained from the Cabbage Face Punch Bonanza minigame, and I do have a guide on this on my channel, but I might not link it in the description, as the description is going to be full with links already. Now it costs 2200 points from the reward shop from the Cabbage Face Punch Bonanza thing, or 10,000 beans from the Playard Farms, or 360 Thaler. Now of course there's a variety of ores that you can use for Slayer. The main ones being Vampirism, which heals you just like Soul Split for 5% of your damage that you do. The Penance Aura, which does the same thing but gives you prayer points for 5% of the damage that you take. The Wisdom Aura, which is a very good aura, which gives you 2.5% experience boost in any skill, so Slayer, Combat, whatever, it doesn't matter. It gives you that experience boost for a certain period of time. And of course the PVM auras, like the Manacle Berserker Aura, or the Dark Magic Aura, and some other ones that give you an accuracy or damage boost, which are very nice to use. I don't want to cover too much about them, as there's just too many to cover, and this video is going to be very long anyway, but I don't want it to be an hour long. Moving on. Now, the list of useful items just keeps going on and on, but yeah. Magic Notepaper. You can buy this item from the Grand Exchange, or win it from Treasure Hunter, or get it from some kind of event like the beach. Now, it notes any drops that you want. You can note bones, you can note talismans, you can note rune items, it doesn't matter, you can note anything with it. Do keep in mind that they cost around 1.5k to 1k each, depending on when you're watching this video, so you want to only note drops that are worth noting. Now the Holy Wrench is also a good item because you can get more prayer points from a prayer potion, and in the long run this is going to save you some money from buying prayer potions. and you can camp at certain areas for longer periods of time. This does require the rum deal quest to be complete to obtain the item though. There's also the kiln capes, and I do have a kiln guide on how to get this cape, but these capes are pretty much the best in-slot cape apart from the completionist cape for ranged, magic and melee. I'll leave a kiln guide in the card section of the video. And of course the attuned ectoplasmator, which you can get from any ghost as a drop. It's pretty much a rare drop though, which is powered by ghostly essence. It's the same as a bone crusher, but then it crushes ashes for prayer experience, and in conjunction with a bone necklace you can get prayer unlimited at like krill, black demons, abyssal demons, lesser demons, you name it. You can get unlimited prayer by using this item and a bone necklace. Now these Slayer helmets are also a very useful item. They give you protection against Slayer creatures that require a head item like a nose peg or a earmuff, and it's just very useful. Apart from that, they also give you 12.5 to 14.5% damage and accuracy boost on Slayer tasks. The Slayer helmet costs 400 Slayer points, and each upgrade costs even more and more, being 400, 600 and then 1000 for the corrupted Slayer helmet. Now these Slayer masks are also super useful items, as they give you extra experience depending on what monster you're killing for around 1000 kills. Now you can use these items to boost your Slayer level up very fast depending on what level you are and what monster you're killing with the mask. Apart from that, the mask also gives you free teleports to the monster for 2 or 3 times a day, and it also gives you the ability to get a task while wearing the mask for the monster, and depending on what mask it is, you can get it daily or every 3 days. It also gives you protection from the monster like the Slayer helmet would do, so let's say if you have the Banshee mask, you're protected from the Banshee, and you don't have to use the earmuffs. The masks can be won from Treasure Hunter, or they can be bought from the Shattered Worlds reward shop for anima. For Slayer, there are definitely some abilities that you can unlock that can help you during your Slayer training journey. The first of which is the Tuska's Wrath basic ability, which can be unlocked for 4000 reward currency from the Anima Islands D&D, minigame Tuska thing, whatever. So what this ability does is against your current Slayer assignment, it does 100 times your Slayer level in damage against that creature or monster, which is pretty nice. Now, another useful ability is the Ice Asylum ability requiring the Dig Site quest. This ability is pretty much a crystal that spawns that heals everyone around you and you for a certain amount of life depending on how close you're standing in proximity of the crystal. The Death Swiftness and Sunshine abilities are very useful as well, as they boost your damage while you're standing in the area that you just created. They are a ultimate ability though. They require the World's Wakes quest to be complete, which is pretty easy, and it gives you good experience rewards as well. Now the Corruption Shot and Blast are definitely worth buying for Slayer. Now they are pretty much a area bleed effect which corrupts onto other enemies, and it does massive amounts of damage, and it's great for farming monsters and just amazing for power slaying, and I 100% suggest you buy this ability because it's just amazing. And I believe it costs around 15 mil, maybe 10 mil when it's cheap. I have no idea when you're watching this video, but it's 100% worth buying for ranged and magic. Now the Slayer Cape is only a useful item or relevant to you if you have 99 Slayer. Now, the normal Slayer Cape gives you the ability to teleport to all the available Slayer Masters, which can save you a lot of time or ferocious rings if you're training at Kurodel or walking to Morvan in Prif. And if you have 120 Slayer, which is the equivalent of 8 times 99, you can get the Master Skill Cape, which gives you the same bonus as the normal Slayer Cape, but it also gives you a 20% chance to choose your next Slayer task, which is amazing. Very, very good. So if you have 120 Slayer and you're for some reason watching this video, use that cape to get your Slayer task every 1 in 5 tasks. I just wanted to mention this in the guide. You can also do co-op Slayer and get some okay rewards, but you have to do it with another player. It isn't worth it for experience, and you definitely want to train Slayer solo if you want to get to 99 or 120 faster. I just put this in a video for the sake of putting it in the video. Moving on. Now for quests, Slayer has quite a bunch that can give you some experience, but the quest you want to complete 100% is the Smoking Kills quest. Not only does it give you access to your Slayer Master, but it also gives you double the Slayer points, or actually 100% of the Slayer points, as without this quest you are only getting 50% of the Slayer points you could be getting on all tasks. The quest does require 35 Slayer and 25 crafting, but that's pretty easy to obtain, and other than that, you know, the quests are on screen if you're interested, and I'm moving on into the video. Now, all these standard Slayer Masters are on screen now. Churael is the standard Slayer Master, which you can find in Taverley. Maxkana, or whatever, or how you pronounce it, is the Slayer Master you can use at level 20 combat. Vanaka is the Slayer Master used at level 40 combat. Cheldar, which requires the Lost City quest, is a Slayer Master used at 75 combat. Now, Simona is the Slayer Master you unlock after completing the Smoking Kills quest, which you want to be doing, as said before, and she requires 90 combat and 35 Slayer, which is required for the quest, obviously, so you'll have that anyway. Duradel requires 100 combat and 50 Slayer. Kuradel is 110 combat and 75 Slayer and is located in the Waterfall dungeon place, which does require the Barbarian mini quest to be complete, which is easy. It's you just make a little log on fire with a bow and you're done. You can easily YouTube a guide if you don't know how to do this. And Morvan, which requires the Plague's End quest, is level 120 combat and 85 Slayer as a requirement. And Plague's End is a pretty big requirement as it's a mid-level goal for most players to unlock Elf City, and then you need 85 Slayer and 120 combat to use Morvan. And he's the best Slayer Master in game, giving the most points and the best high-level tasks. Now, Slayer points are received on completing a Slayer task. As said before, if you do Smoking Kills, you get double the normal points you would be getting. Now, the Slayer points can be used to buy rewards like the Slayer Helmet and other useful stuff, which we'll be covering later on in the guide. You can see how many Slayer points at what Slayer Master you're getting, and every 10th and 50th task you're going to get a bonus of points as seen on screen. If you have any questions, just drop them down in the comments below, as this guide is already 16 minutes long. Now, with your Slayer points you can buy a variety of items, but the items you want to be focusing on are the full Slayer Helmet, requiring 400 points to access the ability to craft one, the Dungeoneering items in your tool belt, so the Charming Imp, Bone Crusher, etc., costing 500 Slayer point rewards, which is very useful as it's going to clean up your inventory and you won't have to worry about not forgetting the Bone Crusher or Charming Imp and bringing them along as they're in your tool belt. And at higher levels, preferring and blocking tasks costing 100 points a task to be blocked permanently at that Slayer Master. Now, as an Iron Man, it might be useful to learn the ability to craft Rings of Slayer, which you can use to teleport, but you can disassemble them for powerful components and enhancing components, which is pretty nice for invention. Just wanted to put that in the guide. The Reaper points are pretty much the same as Slayer points, but you get them from Reaper task, which I'll be covering later on in the video. You can use these points in Death's Store for rewards, and you get the same amount of extra points each task as with Slayer points normally. So 10 every 10th task, and 50 extra points for every 50th task that you complete. Now we are getting very close to the ways to train Slayer, but first, the gear setups for a mid-level player. I will not be covering a low-level setup because you just want to be using the best gear that you can use. So for ranged, Armoredale non-degradable armor is pretty good to use. A Kiln Cape, Skill Cape, or even a Obsidian Cape will do. The Blood Fury is useful for extra healing. Then the Ring of Fortune, which is a nice ring that can give you an extra chance as you drop because it's a luck tier item. A Royal Crossbow, which is a cheap tier 80 weapon. You can alternatively also use a Crystal Bow, a Tuned Crystal Bow, Decimation Bow, the Glaives from the Gregoric boss. For magic, it's pretty much the same. Tier 17 non-degradable armor, Blood Fury, Kiln Cape, Ring of Fortune, and a Staff of Light, which could also be a Armoredale Battle Staff, or the Obliteration Staff, or maybe even a Noxious Staff, but that's pretty much high level really. If you don't have the money, you can also get a Abyssal Wand and Orb, which is a dual wield weapon, which is nice as well. And if you've done the event from a while back, I believe you can get the Mythic Staff, which gives you unlimited fire, water, and earth runes, which is also pretty nice. And for melee, again the same. Kiln Cape, full Bandos will do, a Blood Fury, and a God Sword. You can alternatively also use the Blade of Nemora and Avarice, or Chaotix, or even a Abyssal Whip if you're a bit more lower level and an offhand weapon. You can also bring a shield along to resonance HP back with, and stuff like that. As for the higher level Slayer setups, again non-degradable armor for the most part, being the Anima Core armor for ranged magic and melee. Then for the gloves and boots, you can use the tier 85 armor from Nex, like Virtus, Torva, and Pernix. For your gloves, on ranged, it could be Ascension Grips. It could also just be Armoredale, gloves, or whatever you call them. Celestial Hand Wraps for magic, which could also be Subjugation gloves, or any tanking gloves, like the static one. For melee, Torva boots and gloves will do. You can also use Bandos boots and gloves if you wish to. As for the necklace, a blood necklace, definitely recommended. A cape, Slayer Skill Cape is useful, as you see on screen. Kiln Cape, Skill Cape, Completionist Cape, Max Cape, all of those capes are good. Then the ring is the Luck of the Dwarves ring, which is the better version of the Ring of Fortune, and a tier 3 luck item, I believe. Holy Wrench. As for the melee setup, you do see a Dragon Rider Lance on screen. This is pretty much the budget Noxious Scythe. The Noxious Scythe is better, but has the same accuracy as the Dragon Rider Lance, just has a lot more damage because it's a tier 90 damage item instead of a tier 80 damage item like the Dragon Rider Lance is. So if you have the money, use a Noxious Scythe instead. So here we are. How do you train Slayer? At lower levels, if you have around 40 plus combat stats, I highly recommend you do the Reaper tasks and the easier boss versions of the Reaper task for your first levels. You get a lot of experience per task, being 7 to 10,000 experience per Reaper task. Now if you do this correctly, you can get a Chaos Elemental, Giant Mole or KBD task each time. If you're unlucky, you don't, but you just do it the next day then. You can do 1 task per day, and you have to do around 4 tasks to get to level 40 Slayer from level 1. This is much less time consuming compared to doing normal tasks from Turel and Tavali being the basic Slayer Master from level 1. So if you do not know how to get Reaper task, go to the Draenor Lodestone, then go into Dev's Hourglass, and then go to Dev and ask him for a task. If he gives you a hard solo boss task, just keep cancelling until you get the good ones like the Chaos Elemental, KBD, or Giant Mole, which are very easy at lower levels. If you're a high level and you're watching this section of the guide, you can always do a high level boss if you wish to for some extra experience and more Reaper points. Do keep in mind, if you cancel your Reaper task too many times, Death will get angry and want to kick you out, and then you have to wait 24 hours before getting a new task. Now instead of claiming a Reaper task at Death each day, you can also claim it remotely with the Grim Gem, which you can get from him, and then you don't have to walk to this area every day, and you can just remotely get your Reaper task each day. Levels 35 to 40 or 50, you want to be doing your Reaper task each day, doing the easy bosses, and you want to get your Slayer tasks from Simona. She requires the Smoking Kills quest to be complete, but then again, you need to do this quest anyway if you want to get more Slayer points. The tasks you should do are Cave Crawlers, Black Demons, Fire Giants, Calfights, Iron Dragons, Dagonoths, and Dragons. Now at lower levels, you do not want to be skipping your Slayer tasks as you want to save up your points for later on, but if you really want to, you want to skip the Banshees and Grotworm tasks as they're very slow and bad Slayer experience. If you don't know how to get to Simona, follow the video to this bandit camp area called Polvenin Reach or something, and Simona is located in a building. From levels 50 to 75, you want to be doing your Slayer tasks at the Slayer Master called Duradel. He requires the Shiloh Village quest complete as he is located there. The tasks you should do are the Black Demons, Aviances, Dragons, Dagonoths, Fire Giants, Mythal Dragons, Steel Dragons, Fire Watchers, and Water Fiends. If you really want to block a task, you can do this at level 50 now. You want to be blocking the Grotworms as they're absolutely awful as said before. Then you want to just don't skip tasks and save the rest of your points for later on. If you do not know how to get to Duradel, go inside the Shiloh Village, go inside the building seen on video, cross the bridge, and claim your task. Levels 75 to 85, you want to get your tasks from Kurodel. This requires the Barbarian Training mini-quest to be complete to access the Waterfall area dungeon thing. The tasks you should do are the Water Fiends, Automatons, Aviances, Black Demons, any type of dragon, Celestial Dragons, Gargoyles, Glacors, Steel Dragons, Calfights, Mythal Dragons, and Tormented Demons. The tasks you want to block are again Grotworms and Aberrant Spectres. If you are an Iron Man, the Aberrant Spectres are good for noted herb drops, by the way. So if you're an Iron Man, you may want to do them and not block them. Don't skip the tasks, but you can skip the task if you don't like them really. But I don't recommend skipping tasks. Just skip, just save your points, bro. If you do not know how to get to Kurodel, buy Games Necklace, teleport to the Barbarian Outpost, go upwards to the Whirlpool, go inside, then follow the video, and you'll be there just fine. Alternatively, you can use your Slayer skill cape to teleport there, or the ferocious rings you obtain by doing a Slayer task in Kurodel's dungeon as a drop. And here we arrive, the final Slayer Master, called Morvan. Morvan requires the Plague's End quest to be complete, also known as the Elven City quest. The tasks you should do at Morvan are pretty subjective, the same goes for the preferred tasks and the block tasks. So, Water Fiends, Arids, Abyssal Demons, Dark Beasts, Archaeon Mammoths, Wyverns, Nightmare Creatures, Corrupted Creatures, Gemstone Dragons, and Lost Grove Creatures are pretty much the tasks you want to be doing at all times, as they're very good experience, usually good money, and good Slayer experience. Preferred tasks is again what you prefer to do really, but I would say do Abyssal Demons, Dark Beasts, Mammoths, Elves, and Ripper Demons on your preferred task. The blocking tasks, you really want to block some of these if you're going for 99 or 120. the grotworms, black demons, Dagonoths, ascension creatures. But you can, you don't have to block the ascension creatures if you like them, if you want to AFK them for keystones, if you're an Iron Man or whatever. Just block what you don't want to be doing during Slayer, and you should find that out by yourself, especially if you're going for 120. Skipping tasks, then again, I don't recommend doing this, but just do it if you don't feel like doing a certain task. If you don't know where Morvan is located, teleport to the Priv Lodestone, go south, and follow the video. Another topic I want to cover in terms of Slayer is contract farming. This is a way of training Slayer, but it is slow, but you can do this as a sort of daily if you wish to, if you have the Abyssal Demon Mask. It requires 85 Slayer to kill the Abyssal Demons, and for every contract you get 20% of the normal Slayer experience the monster gives you, which is 278 I believe for the Abyssal Demon, from a kill. If you have a Slayer task, you're obviously going to get 120% experience as you have the Slayer task and the contract, giving you 20% extra. Always kill the Abyssal Demons. You can do this at lower levels for some Slayer experience in the Slayer Tower, but you don't have to. Now, each contract that you complete of 200 kills of Abyssal Demons, you get coins as a reward or experience depending on what you pick. I recommend you use the Abyssal Demon Mask or Mask of the Abyss every day for a free daily task. While wearing it, you go to your Slayer Master, either being Kurda or Morvan, for a daily task. This adds up to more experience and just, it's nice. If you don't do this, the contracts are going to get you around 40 to 50,000 Slayer experience per hour if you're getting around 800 to 1,000 Abyssal Demon kills per hour. If you're interested in killing Abyssal Demons, I do have a magic and melee guide on my channel, which I'll link in the description and card section of the video. Now you get a contract at the Slayer Tower in Canafis at the entrance from the NPC, just so you know. You then want to go to the upper floor for the Abyssal Demons, farm them, get your 200 kills, go downstairs, get a new contract, and repeat the cycle each time. Now the last section of this guide is power slaying. This is only for players that want to get the most efficient experience per hour, or fast experience per hour, going for 99, 120, or even 200 million experience. The first thing is pretty obvious. Use the best gear you have, use a Steel Titan, which requires 99 summoning, or a Nihil for an accuracy boost. Then, depending on where you're slaying, you want to be using a cannon and or aggression potions. At Eretz, for example, I do not recommend using aggression potions as they're pretty strong these days. A cannon can't be used in Kurodal's dungeon, but you can use it outside Kurodal's dungeon at, let's say, Dark Beast in the Morning Tunnels. Use all your AoE abilities depending on what style you're using. So if you're using a Scythe, use Quake, Hurricane, and Cleave. If you're using ranged magic, use the Corruption abilities, the ultimates, everything that helps you out. It's pretty straightforward, but yeah, you want to use this at all times, and you don't want to be AFKing if you want the most experience per hour. You want to focus on targeting the most enemies as you can, and DPSing them down as if you're killing a boss. Now, depending on where you're training, you might struggle to survive, even with a Blood Fury and some food. Let's say the Sarandon encampment, which I don't recommend training Slayer at, but that's an example. You require Soul Split to survive there, and the Vampirism Aura. If it's still too hard wherever you're training, let's say at Eretz, or you don't have a Vampirism Aura, you want to use the Scrimshaw of Vampirism, which does cost around 2 million GP, and it should only be used if you can't survive with Soul Split and Vampirism stacking on top of each other. If you're wondering, Soul Split, Vampirism, and the Scrimshaw of Vampirism all together can stack, which is amazing. Definitely use augmented gear to do even more damage, which is always useful. And other than that, that pretty much concludes this massive, long Slayer guide. If you're interested in killing any Slayer monster, I have a huge amount of monster guides on my channel for you to check out, telling you how to kill the monster and what items you specifically need for that monster, most of which being Slayer monsters. So if you enjoyed or found this guide helpful, please leave a like and maybe even consider subscribing, and I'll catch you guys later. Thanks for watching my 1 to 99 and 120 Slayer guide. Peace.
I'm never gonna stop, yeah. One shot, that's all you got. Take it right now, before you get lost, yeah. One shot, that's all you got. Write your own story, you control the plot, yeah. One shot, that's all you